How's it going, guys? It is Jaku, and what I'm going to be doing right now is if you guys already saw, I was at a tournament this weekend. It was my first tournament in a long time, and I actually managed to participate, which was really awesome. I miss going to tournaments and things like that. But what I wanted to go over right now is just my deck, the Ghostricks deck that I decided to go ahead and the build, the ways that I went for the tournament and all that, as well as just basically like a report on how the tournament itself went. So it's kind of like a deck profile plus locals report and things like that. And yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and get into it. As far as the competitive scene goes at my locals is actually very competitive. I've got a lot of good players there. It's players who are constantly topping at events like YCSs and regionals. Like there's a really good variety of players at my locals. So as far as the competition goes, I am not worried in that department. I definitely get good tests out of this deck, as well as I actually have really good competition to go up against. Unfortunately, I was kind of like placed at the bottom of the barrel as far as the competition went. There was about 32 players, I think, for this weekend when we were at the competition. So I only got to play against like a couple people, and I ended up playing outside, like pretty much for all of the event, like for outside of the store and all that. So it's kind of sucked. But anyways, good players, good competition, got good tests, and I'm gonna go and just get into the deck profile. This is the build that I went with for the tournament. I updated a little bit since last time. So 3 lanterns, I stuck to that. I went ahead and decided to just keep it the way it was because lantern is just universally good in that sense. Double specter, because I like to have something that's reactionary. I like to get the draw power, and I figure, you know what, I dropped 1 so that I could go ahead and add a couple of other cards. Triple Mary, still the best card in the deck. You probably should be running 3, very minimum 2. Some people like to run 2 or something like that. That's the level 1s. Level 2s, I go ahead and I want to switch Nyuka Musume and Yukiona. I just went ahead and took them out, and I put in a second witch. I went a little bit more aggressive with my build for the tournament, at least with the way that I was playing the deck after all. Level 3s, Jiangxi's, 3 of them. You need to have him. He's your searcher for everything. You just need to like have him to be recruiting you like every guy that you can get in the deck. And last one is Ghostricks Stein for the level 3s. And he's just basically search fodder for the spells. And at 2, he's pretty good. Like 3 got a little bit cloggy, and at 1 is like you'd have to like basically rely on searching him off for Jiangxi. So 2 is not bad. 2 is definitely acceptable. Magician of Faith, she stands alone. She gets a lot of the cards that you need back, and especially for the new build that I had for this weekend, I had a lot more spell cards I could go for, so she was actually very live. For the spell lineup, I had Triple Mansion. This card basically is just there to go ahead and protect you, like prevent you from getting OTK'd, protect your life points, and protect your Ghostricks monsters. So, I mean, this is putting in a lot of the work right there. If you want to run this, Museum, or the new Ghostricks Parade that's coming out, it's all to your discretion and playstyle. I like Mansion. It's personally my favorite. 2 Recurring Nightmare, I kept it into the deck, and it actually served me pretty well. Like for most of my matchups, I was able to go ahead and keep adding back cards to my hands and such, and it was pretty good for me. So like I just enjoyed having this overall. For the added speed, this is one of the cards that I went and tried it out. Double Pot of Duality. It was actually very helpful. It's really good for you to be able to go ahead and like set up at least the pieces that you need for your combos and all that. Just draw into your deck, especially the 40 card limit that it is at right now. Double Noble Mana Crossout. This was actually a really good card for the weekend because if I was originally thinking if I wanted to side deck this, but then I realized that a lot of the people at the store might be playing a lot of the meta decks, such as like Mermails and Karakuris, and maybe even a Gravekeeper player here or there. But if I was lucky enough, if I could hit like Spy, if I could hit a Linde, or if I could hit a Gear Armor, hey, I'm not going to complain about that at all. That'd be pretty awesome. Which I actually did a couple times. Hit for the Karakuris matchup. I did hit sometimes. Double Swords Concealing Light. Just either A, go defensive, or B, OTK your opponent with this. It's a really good card. Do not ever stop me or anything like that. Book of Moon, and that's just for staples as well as triple MST. You just need something to answer back row. Heavy Stormer's banned, so you just need like back row hate at this point. For the traps, I had triple Ghostricks Go Round. This is by far, like, this put in the most work at the tournament. This is an amazing trap card for the deck entirely, for any kind of like Ghostricks variant that you actually like have Ghostricks monsters on board and you have them maintaining a field presence. This card is amazing, and you guys saw how I was using this in my
Gear Gear matchup as well as the Bujin matchup on my channel earlier, like the other videos that I have. But if you want to just see how this card works out, it's amazing. You should give it a try if you haven't before or anything like that. Double Ghostricks Scare. Just I put in a lot of work through Ghostrick Go Round, but for those times when I need to just have like mass monster flipping or things like that, or when I had to do something outside of the battle phase, this is the card I would go to, and it was pretty good. Like I'm not upset with it. I used to have it at 3. I dropped it down to 2, and honestly, it's working just fine at 2 for me. Other cards that I have in here, Ghostrick Vanish. So this card is just basically protection against whatever you need to like prevent yourself from getting hit by, like Fiendish Chains, Compulses, like activate the start of the turn so you can go ahead and set up from there. If you enter the battle phase and you attack something, you can use this card and just use it against like Mirror Force, use it against something like Torrential, you can use it against Bottomless, anything else that you would need. It's just universal protection and it's really good. And last but not least, the most unfair trap in the deck, Needle Sealing. Unfortunately, I didn't get this card off as much as I would have hoped to have gotten it off, but it did help me out whenever it did go off. Like, it was very helpful. I originally had it 3. I dropped it down to 2 just so I could go ahead and fit in the other cards. I fit in a Nobleman of Crossout for the 3rd one as well. So that maybe might have been like one of the differences for how this card got affected and all that. But otherwise, it all went pretty well for me. So yeah, it's a 40 card lineup if I remember correctly. But overall, it went really well, at least for the main deck. The cards that I shuffled out a lot of the times depended on the matchups. I usually shuffled out like the 3 ofs or like the 2 ofs. I never shuffled out the 1 ofs for this deck. But let me go ahead and get into the other cards for the deck. I have the extra deck here. Same thing as last time, guys. I kid you not. Like, literally for the entire duration of the tournament, the only cards I ever went into for my actual matches were these 6 cards right here. I never went into anything other than Ghostrick Alucard and Ghostrick Dualahan. These guys put in all the work, they do all the work that you need them to do, being just recyclers, being like defensive and offensive units themselves, and just having really, really good effects overall. Like, I was not disappointed at all by these two. As far as the extra deck goes, just put in whatever you want. I guess the only regret that I might have is the fact that it didn't put in Downward Magician. I would have probably been able to go into her a couple of times, like in my matches and all that. Problem is, though, that I couldn't find one in time. I found out about a tournament pretty late, so I didn't really have a lot of time to go ahead and edit my deck. But a couple of other choices just to fill in space. I had Acid Golem, I had Levier, I had Mech Equip Engineer, Zen Mains, Lionheart, Utopia Roots, Slacker Magician, Galaxy Queen, and just for the lulz, I put in Master of Oz, because you know what, I don't give a crap. And that was it for the extra deck. And other cards. This is my side deck. This was my hardest thing. This was the hardest thing that I had to deal with for the weekend because of the fact that like I had no idea what was meta in the store. I just asked my friends and they said that like Bujins and Fire Fist were the meta decks like in the store. So I went ahead and I was just kind of like expecting to play against a couple of those matchups. I only ended up playing one Bujin player during the whole thing. All the Fire Fist players were at the top tables. And yeah, that's just how it ended up working out for me. But I'll go ahead and I'll get into the deck. I kind of made this again last minute, so like I really couldn't get like that many good cards for it. Obvious choices: Thunder King Ryo. He's such a good meta call. Like any meta deck, Thunder King Ryo puts in so much work. It's ridiculous, but I love this guy. He's amazing. Other cards that I put in because I couldn't afford Maxis or Veilers, I just put in triple Skullmeister. If you guys never have seen this card before, it says the effect during either player's turn, when a card effect is activated in your opponent's graveyard, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard to negate that effect. So I would use this mainly against matchups that would require monsters to have their effects activated in the graveyard, like Bujins, where they activate like all their Bujinji monsters in the graveyard. Dark Worlds, this card activated itself. Mermails, this card activates. Any floater monsters, when they're destroyed and get sent to the graveyard, that activate. It always depended on the matchup, but I put in some work here and there. Other cards that I had, Double Twister, just extra back row hate, answering like continuous spells and traps when they're activated, mainly tanky, things like that. Other cards, Prohibition. I cited this card in a lot of my games, but I never actually got the chance to like draw into it like in time. And I never was able to really play it, but this is my favorite side deck card because of the fact that it's just universal, it will respond to anything. Other cards, for any decks that like really require a lot of presence in the graveyard, I had Dimensional Fissure, Macrocosmos, and Soul Drain. had these pretty much just so if my opponent had a deck that relied way, way, way more heavily on the graveyard than mine did, like say something like a Dark Worlds or something like Mermails or something like Fire Fist or Macrocosmos mainly, this is what I would have probably used against that deck. And they did put some work here and there. Like, I really was happy with the way that these cards worked out for me. Again, some cards I would have preferred to have sided over other cards, but again, last minute things. I had been tournament 7 months, so I wasn't really like up to date with the meta. Other cards, 2 Light Imprisoning Mirrors, mainly for Boojins, for Constellars, and for Lightsworns, because I don't like having Yamato on the board, I don't like having Constellar Pleiades on the board, and I especially hate Judgment Dragon. JD just can go suck a chode. But yeah, that's why I just don't care at all about what my matchups were like at that point. Just Light's Imprisoning Mirror answered a lot of things. Funny enough, guys, Evil Storm Exciton Knight is a light monster. I didn't know that, and I found that hilarious today when they went into Exciton Knight. But yeah, that's fine. Other cards that I had was Double Mind Crush. This card right here is just, it's always been good. You can pretty much call whatever you need. You can just, your opponent searches out a lot of cards. It's always going to be live in that sense. But yeah, so that's 15 card extra deck. And onto my report for my locals, like how at least I did, because I'm doing this more so because I want to get some help with my deck, because you guys saw my videos, you saw how the deck played out and everything, and I just kind of like, I'm always looking to build my decks up, go ahead and test them out. But what I wanted to go ahead and just go over is basically my actual matchup. So game 1, you guys all saw it. It was my Karakuri Geargian matchup, and I played a pretty decent player. Like, he was actually like getting good combos off and all that. The things I can say is that game 1 I lost because I misplayed. I could have lantern blocked appropriately, and I would have been able to stall for one more turn, maybe gotten an out or something. But it's all fine. That's happened. Misplays happen. Game 2 was a grind game, and eventually I won that one. And game 3, I just lost because of time. Like, I literally just lost because of time. And that sucked for me, but you know what? Time is a component of competitive gameplay, so I know that it's gonna have to be a thing, and I have to deal with it. So I just have to get faster with the deck, and I have to like make sure that I do my plays as fast as possible so that that doesn't happen again. So that's as far as game 1, or my first round. Round 2 was against my friend Brian, actually, and his Blackwing deck, and it was just a terrible matchup because he's been playing Blackwings for years, so he knows the deck inside and out. He was just able to own my ass game 1, like he just OTK'd the crap out of me. And then game 2, he decided into like a lot of his back row hate cards, like Twisters and Dust Tornadoes, and that actually did put in quite a bit of work for him because it got rid of my go-rounds and my mansions. And yeah, he basically, he killed me at that point. I got 2-0'd in that matchup, which is fine. I'd rather lose to a friend than to lose to a scrub. Other things that happened, game 3, or my round 3, was against Dark Worlds. I hate Dark Worlds with a passion. And even though I was already X2 at that point, I was just like, you know what? I am not going to let myself lose to a Dark World player. Like, I don't care if I have to go like, beat it by everything else. I was not going to lose to Dark World. That's just how I feel about him. But yeah, I went ahead and I owned him. He owned me game 1 just because of the fact that it's Dark World's game 1. Just own everyone. But yeah, I managed to go ahead and side the crap out of him. I sided pretty much everything in my side deck except for like Light Imprisoning Mirror and Thunder King, I think. But yeah, I kicked his ass. And my game 4 was Boojins. That's another matchup that I had on my channel. That was my last matchup of the day. I just quit after that game because of the fact that, like, you know what? I was already like on a losing streak, so I just went ahead and enjoyed the match, and it didn't really matter to me at that point anymore. But game 1, I won it. It was a huge grind game, but I won that one. Game 2 was another huge grind game. He eventually ended up winning that one. And same problem as the first game. We ended up both going to time, and he just managed to just deal me damage one time, and that's all he needed to do. And I just eventually I basically surrendered the game in my own stylish fashion. But yeah, so I went X3. It's not one of my better tournaments. I was just kind of like done with the fact that like I lost 2 of my games due to time. And yeah, I honestly, like, if I had had more time, I'm pretty sure I could have won those games. Because I was looking back at my hands after the video. I actually had decent hands to be able to keep going from. So, like, I was not... I think I could have been able to at least, like, make decent plays at that point. But it's alright. I'm not going to go ahead and I'm not going to complain that much about it. But Otherwise, guys, let me know what you think of the deck. I mean, I pretty much like have it all laid out here. I don't know if you can see it all or not, but it's basically like all my cards. It's a 40 card deck. Let me know what you think about the lineup and everything like that. I'm probably, for this weekend and for just the next videos, I'm going to be doing this just kind of like channel thing now. I'm going to be putting up my friend's Sylvan deck profile because I dueled with him some time ago and people are just asking me about it, so I'll go ahead and I'll get that done. And I think for now, I mean, the deck, Ghostricks, I'm probably going to go ahead and just put this on a hold until Primal Origin comes out because of the new cards that they're releasing. Ghostrick Knight and Ghostrick Werewolf and Ghostrick Doll, those cards I'm very, very interested in. So I'm going to see just how basically that works out. But I'm going to go ahead and put this deck on hold for a little bit. You guys can still always ask me for help, and I'll still duel with it from here and there, but just I'm going to put it on hold and focus on my other decks.
But otherwise, guys, thanks for watching. Leave a comment down below if you have any good suggestions for the deck. And otherwise, this has been Jaku, and I'll catch you guys later.